In Formula One, the battle for the championship is fought as much in the media as it is on the racetrack. With just 3 races left in the 2025 season, the pressure is at its peak, and comments from team bosses can carry significant weight. This week, McLaren CEO Zack Brown has added a new layer to the championship narrative, with some carefully chosen words about Red Bull driver and 4-time world champion Max Verstappen. In a recent interview, Brown described Verstappen as a bruiser who can be too aggressive, reigniting a long-standing debate about the Dutchman's driving style. The comments were made during an interview with the British newspaper The Telegraph, published on November 18. When asked if he believed Red Bull as a team race dirty, Brown chose to pivot his answer to focus specifically on their lead driver. "I don't want to disparage Max. He's a 4-time world champion," Brown began, before delivering his pointed critique. "He can be a bruiser too aggressive on track. His arrogance comes out." Brown did, however, add some context, noting, "If you look at some of the greatest champions in Formula One, they've had some arrogance about them. They get their elbows out." This description of Verstappen is not new. Throughout his career, the Dutchman has been known for his aggressive, no-compromise approach to wheel-to-wheel racing. However, the timing of Brown's comments is what makes them particularly interesting. As the Formula One circus heads to Las Vegas for the penultimate race weekend, Max Verstappen finds himself in an unfamiliar position. He is currently 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, trailing both of Zack Brown's McLaren drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Verstappen is 49 points behind Norris, the championship leader. With a maximum of 83 points still available, the title is mathematically possible, but the task is immense. Verstappen essentially needs to win the remaining races and hope for misfortune to strike the McLaren duo. To understand the full weight of these comments, it is important to look at the numbers. Norris leads with 390 points, and Piastri is second with 366. This means Verstappen is not only trailing the leader, but also behind the second-place driver, making his path to a 5th consecutive title incredibly difficult. If he falls more than 60 points behind with only 2 races remaining after Las Vegas, the championship will be mathematically over. The pressure on Verstappen is therefore enormous, and the stakes could not be higher. This championship context is crucial. Brown's comments can be seen as a strategic move, psychological warfare designed to put Verstappen and Red Bull under additional scrutiny. By publicly labeling Verstappen a bruiser, Brown is potentially influencing how stewards might view any on-track incidents in the final decisive races. He is reminding everyone of Verstappen's past reputation, planting a seed of doubt about the fairness of his driving just when Verstappen may need to be at his most aggressive to keep his title hopes alive. It is also worth noting that this is not the first time Brown has made critical comments about Red Bull and its personnel. Earlier this year, he also made pointed remarks about former Red Bull team principal Christian Horner, who left the team in September. Brown has never been shy about expressing his opinions, and his willingness to speak openly has made him one of the more quotable figures in the paddock. Some see this as refreshing honesty, while others view it as unnecessary provocation. Regardless of opinion, his words carry weight, especially when his team is leading the championship. When pressed for specific examples to back up his claims, Brown pointed to Verstappen's history at the Brazilian Grand Prix. "Max has crossed the line on track at times," Brown stated, adding, "In Brazil against Lewis Hamilton, a handful of his passes on Lewis were overly aggressive." This refers to several incidents between the two rivals at the Interlagos circuit, most notably during their intense championship battle in 2021. These moments have become defining examples of Verstappen's hard racing style, where he pushes the limits of what is considered acceptable in a wheel-to-wheel fight. The central question raised by Brown's comments and by the article in Racing News 365 that analyzed them is whether this bruiser label is still accurate. Many observers would argue that the Max Verstappen of today is a far more mature and calculated driver than the young man who burst onto the scene in 2015. In his early years, Verstappen was frequently involved in incidents and was criticized for being overly aggressive and sometimes reckless. However, since winning his first world championship, he has displayed a new level of maturity. He seems to pick his battles more carefully, understanding when to push and when to concede a position, knowing that a championship is won over a season, not in a single corner. To label him a bruiser in 2025, when he has demonstrated such control and skill, could be seen as ignoring his development as a driver. On the other hand, the competitive fire that defined his early career has not disappeared. When the situation demands it, Verstappen is still more than willing to get his elbows out. We have seen flashes of the old aggression in moments of high pressure. This is what makes Brown's comments so timely. With his back against the wall in the championship fight, will we see the return of the Bruiser in Las Vegas in the final two races? Will Verstappen feel the need to push the boundaries of fair racing to close the gap to the McLarens? This is the narrative that Zack Brown is hoping to build. The broader implications of this debate extend beyond just Verstappen and Brown. It raises questions about what is considered acceptable racing in modern Formula One. The sport has always walked a fine line between encouraging hard, competitive racing and ensuring driver safety. The rules have evolved over the years, with the FIA introducing stricter guidelines on what constitutes fair racing. Verstappen has been at the center of many of these discussions, with incidents in recent years leading to clarifications and adjustments to the sporting regulations. His driving style has, in many ways, shaped the modern interpretation of the rules. Ultimately, Zack Brown's comments serve multiple purposes. They are a defense of his own drivers, a subtle warning to the race stewards, and a strategic move to apply psychological pressure on his main rival. By framing Verstappen as an overly aggressive driver, he is attempting to control the conversation and potentially influence the outcome of the championship. It is a classic example of the mind games that have always been a part of Formula One.